What's up, guys, and welcome to Faith and Failures. We want to say thank you for joining the Facebook group. You can look it up, Faith and Failures, if you want to join. We have over 200 people talking on relative topics, the stuff we don't talk about in church, which is also the vision of this podcast. Also, we have some people that have already given, but you can click the link below to send a PayPal offering. Think of it as a tip jar. If you like what you hear, send away. So today I have with me, first ever on a podcast, Caleb McCaslin. What's up, man?
Good to be here, man.
Are you nervous?
A little bit, but I'm passionate about this stuff, so I'm not really worried.
It's easier when you don't have an audience, right? You're just talking to someone else.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, so today is going to be a topic of dating and the younger generation and dating in today's day. And Caleb is very passionate about this, so I'm gonna let him kind of take the reins and start it.
All right, so I got a little outline here for us, and I got 5 quick points so we can discuss, and then we'll briefly lead into marriage for the final here. But so the first point that I want to bring up, and again before I start, what I've noticed is how I've accumulated all this information is I've read several books from various authors. I've observed in my high school, at TJC, I went to a junior college, and then I transferred to university. I've observed there as well. So both high school and college students kind of watched, been observant, seen what they've done. I've interviewed a lot of people. I interview regularly just to try to pick people's minds and understand where they're coming from and their life experience and so on. So that's where a lot of this information is coming from, and I'm very passionate about helping people. So here we go. The first part I want to discuss is actually before dating. So before we even get into it, some things that I feel like young people kind of neglect and don't understand that they could use to benefit them. And the first one is to just know what you want ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So many young people are, and you're going to hear this a lot from me, they're just chasing emotion. Right. They're just, they're chasing emotion. Yes, hormones. They're chasing the emotion. They're going after whatever feels good primarily, not really what is good. And so,
which is the greatest path to crash and burn quickly.
Yeah, most people will learn that. It's just going to take some time for them to learn it along the way. But so if you're, let's say you're a homebody, you're someone who likes to stay home, you like to watch movies and so on, and then maybe you end up with someone who's more of an adventurous type, and they like to go out and do things. Simple things like that can add up. So you want to make sure you know what you want ahead of time, and you can find this opportunity to learn who they are before dating by,
Facebook stalk them.
Yeah, you can Facebook stalk them. Exactly. Yeah. It's 2020, baby. But also, a lot of times whenever people end up dating, you'll notice that they're in social situations together. They're just, just friends at the moment before they begin dating. It's not usually cold call, they're strangers. So
that's what the bars are for.
yeah, that's what the bars are for. Don't look if you want to find your perfect person. The bar's
don't go to the bar.
Place. Yeah, it's not the place.
You'll wake up and do the walk of shame, and you'll wish you'd never done it.
Yeah. Some other quick things. You need to lean on your logic. A lot of people chase emotion. Again, this is going to be a theme of this. Early on, your heart's going to tell you, "Oh, this is going to drag you. It's going to push you that way." Dude, let me tell you. That's not the way to go. Right. Nine times out of 10 is not the way to go. You got to lean on your logic. You want to see if you can match your worldview with that person.
If you start feeling that way, pump the brakes a little bit. Like take a step back. It's like when your anger starts building and you're in a argument with somebody and it starts rising up and you're like, okay, I need to take 10 seconds and just recollect my thoughts.
That's an excellent idea.
It's the same exact thing in dating. You got to step back and look at it and be like, okay, do I really want this to be, because it's a precursor of what's to come. Pump your brakes.
Yeah. There's that. Hey, being cautious is your friend. Okay.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
a big time your friend. They want to see if you can match your worldview with that person. So, for example, I'm a committed Christian myself. If I were to engage in dating with an atheist, that could cause problems long term. For example, if we got married one day, we had kids. Now we have to decide once they get older, hey, I want my kids going to church. Well, maybe she doesn't want that. Mm-hmm. She doesn't believe in that stuff. So now you have conflict that's unnecessary. You could have avoided it had you just known what you wanted ahead of time. Little things like this will add up. So, and this is a big one for me, is whenever I'm looking for a dating partner, I'm always saying, okay, does she have servant mentality? How can I learn if she has servant mentality? That is very important to me. And what I mean by servant mentality is she willing to, because most people, myself included, human beings are just inherently selfish, it seems to me. So
without even trying, it's
just,
a gift.
I mean, it really is, sadly. But I want to know, is she willing to go out of her bounds and be willing to sacrifice something that maybe she wanted for me, and then I can do the same thing for her. And if you get in that mindset where you can both constantly be serving one another and it's a giving, not a taking, I feel like things are going to run so much smoother.
It's a double-edged sword where you guys come together as one and you can tackle anything.
Yeah,
Nothing
and you
can
become a
defeat you.
team.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what you're saying. Exactly.
Well, my wife, talking about servanthood, like, and I didn't realize, I guess when we were dating, she was this way because she's so quiet, like she's short and small, and she sneaks up on you like, God, what is that? And she, like, we'll be at church, and I'm the worship leader and the youth pastor. Without me ever saying anything or knowing that she does anything, she will pack up my guitar. She'll have it ready for me with the iPad on top of it. She'll turn off all the airs in the church. She'll make sure all the lights are off. And nobody's ever asked her to do this. She just does it. And I'm standing there talking with somebody because, they want to come up and talk after service.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I turn around, I'm like, baby, you're making me look bad. Like, I let everybody know I'm not asking her to do this.
Yeah.
She's doing it on her own. But that's just that's her personality.
Yeah.
That's her makeup. And it's a blessing to me. And then when we come home, like, I do things like the laundry. I vacuum the floors.
Yeah.
And then anything else I can help out with. And then I'll turn around. I'll be in the office working. I have a full day in the office. I'll see her running outside and she'll be mowing the yard. Like, so it's not the typical, like, roles of a man and a woman, but it's, we found what works for us and we make it work. And it's a give and take and we serve each other and we have no wants because we both serve each other.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. That you don't have to go the traditional route as long as you're a team, as long as you're just fulfilling each other's needs.
It's not a one size fits all.
Exactly.
You have to know what each other wants and talk about what each other wants.
People are unique. People are different. You can't
just go to Walmart. You'll see.
Yeah, just go to Walmart, baby. We all know.
Proof. Yeah.
But there's actually a quote by Jimmy Evans. I don't know if I can do it word by word, but he says something like, "The best marriages in the world are two servants in love, and the worst marriages in the world are two masters in love." And so I think that really speaks volumes to what I'm getting at here when it comes to the servant mentality. If you've got to know that before. If you really want to know it before, and if not, if you do engage in a dating relationship, you want to know it quickly.
Yeah.
Is this that kind of person who can get? And if you recognize that person has servant mentality, that's probably a sign of maturity at that point.
Absolutely.
And if they don't have it, then maybe they can work up to it or whatever. But that is definitely something that you need to be looking for and investigating. The other thing, and this is just brief, and you can't always figure this out, but this kind of goes back to the Facebook stalking. Just a track record, their history. It's easy to do when they're in high school.
Credit score.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Their credit score.
Like,
What's it at, baby?
What's your number? And we'll talk.
Yeah. So if they've gone through 10 boyfriends in 10 months, what's to say
Red
you're not
flag.
11? You know, you got to watch out for that. You can't chase your emotion. You got to use some logic here and use common sense.
And that's the same with cheating. That's a pretty raw topic.
Yeah.
But if someone is a cheater and they've done it in their previous relationships, they will probably end up doing it to you.
Yeah.
At some point. It's something you really have to have time to buff out.
Yeah.
Like, I had that time, like, I was technically married once before. Not technically, I was married. She left me, we weren't together, and so, but by God's standards, I was cheating by doing things with other women.
Yeah.
Even though she left me, and so I used that to justify. And so it took a long period of time to buff that out of my personality because I was she did this, I'm going to do this mentality. And so to then marry this perfect woman, you're perfect, baby, I love you. I had a time that I believe God put me out in the wilderness so that kind of how he did the children of Israel, where the older generation died off of old habits and not listening. I think God did that to me and my personality, to where then I was the person to bring into the promised land, i.e. my wife, to where then I could treat her the way she deserved to be treated because God shed all that old me away.
That is a good analogy.
Sorry, got a little Christian right there.
It's a really good analogy.
But that's how I view it because, like, I was in like David was in the field after he was already anointed. He still, for 15 years, was not king even after he was anointed. There was a time that he was getting prepared by killing lions and bears so then he could face the giant and then be coming to the anointing and the promise that God had given him years ago. So scholars say about 15 years. And my wife was asking me before, she actually asked me quite often, where were you this whole time? And I said, I was in my field of waiting, getting prepared and trained to treat you because you wouldn't have liked me. I was a know-it-all.
You're a different person.
I was a jerk. I was not the type of guy that would appreciate who she is now. And so sometimes the field of waiting is the worst and best place you can be.
That makes perfect sense to me because if she comes into your life too early, then it's going to ruin, it's going to mess everything up. But with that preparation, it fixes things and makes everything smooth and ready to go.
And so it helps you going out of the gate already knowing what you want, what you expect, and to also be flexible because, for instance, she's exactly what I wanted. She was a virgin. She was a godly person. She was in church. She was a servant. I was nothing that she wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And she had never went on 2 dates. She had never been kissed before. And so this whole thing for her was, and she even told me no, that she didn't want to date me. And so she wanted an educated guy. She wanted no criminal record. She wanted him to not have kids or be married before. And I was all of those things. I've been to jail twice. I failed out of college twice. I had a kid already and married once. And so all these things was on her checklist of things she didn't want, when really the thing she actually needed was what I was. So
See, that's crazy. That's a mindset shift right there.
yeah, so you have to be flexible in some areas, but still know what you want and not bend on some. You have to have a checks and balances to where this side is going to even out this side. I know what I want. I know what I can't handle. So you don't want to, if you love to argue, you probably don't want to be with someone who argues because
Yeah.
you'll just be fighting all the time. She's quiet. She's like a hurricane. Like the storm hits and she's the eye of the storm. When she gets quieter, you're like, oh crap, something's about that. But I'm the opposite. I blow up and I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I'm a tornado. I come through, I tear everything up, and I'm done. And then so we found a checks and balances to where I know that I have to go apologize because I probably said something that was a little mean because I'm very blunt. And she always tells me like, you should have said it like this. I'm like, it doesn't matter if I say it like that. You still won't receive it. And so it's funny because that's one thing. Always be willing to apologize, even if you don't feel you're wrong.
Yeah.
Which is a
It's
big
not
one.
always about if you're right or wrong.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's about how you say it, and it's about whether you're listening or not just about whether you're right or wrong all the time.
Because if you stick to you being right or wrong, you'll never end up resolving the issue.
Yeah.
And you'll end up creating more.
And is it really worth it? I mean, most of the time when you get in an argument, it's just not worth it
It's
whether you're
stupid
right or wrong.
usually. Like it didn't take the trash out, or like I have something in the bathroom in there that she mentioned like a month or two ago. It was a little patchwork I did on the tile in there. Well, I needed to scrape something off, and it's been that way for like 6 months. I never go in the bathroom, so it never crosses my mind.
Yeah.
But she said like maybe something about it twice, but she didn't make it a thing, and it didn't become an issue. And actually, before you came over, I was like, dang it, he's going to see that. Like I only think about it when I have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's marriage is a give and take. You have to be able to choose your battles well, and so you have to implement that kind of mindset in the dating when you're looking for who you want.
Yeah.
Are they willing to apologize? Are they willing to step back?
soft-hearted?
Yeah.
And I feel like you can be a little more rigid in dating because there's not that full commitment yet. There's just a certain degree of commitment.
Oh,
But
yeah,
when
it's
you get to
cutthroat out there.
marriage, yeah, you want to be that way in dating. You want to be picky. That's a good thing. That's not being shallow. That's a good thing for you and the person that you're engaged with, you're potentially that you're dating. When it comes to marriage, though, it's a little different. I feel like it's more of a soft-hearted because now you've entered that full commitment. It's not the same arena
You're
as dating.
stuck.
yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a sec. Wait till we get to the end, okay? I've heard so many young people tell me, "Oh, well, marriage is just you're gonna get bored and you're gonna get stuck." Okay, that's not at all what
You have to work
marriage-
for it.
Let me tell
it's
you,
a full-time job. You have to
it
try.
is. But it's also so rewarding, and it's. I've seen so many people who've done things the right way in their marriage, and I've had long conversations with them, and it's not always what the media takes it out to be, you know.
Oh yeah, it's like everybody tries to put out their Instagram story of a perfect life, and everybody's fit and looking good, and life is perfect. Oh, we're in Malibu again. Shut up. Life ain't that way.
Yeah.
Life ain't that way. You're eating cereal like everybody else in the morning times, and you're going to buy milk and trying to find toilet paper in these times. You're just like everybody else. Stop trying to paint a picture. Oh my goodness, life is so good right now. Shut up.
Where's
No,
the
it ain't.
germ eggs?
You're scared just like everybody else. Quit pretending. So how's that affected your life?
What the coronavirus?
Yeah, has it affected it a
Oh
lot?
man, it's terrible. I'm a social bug, so it's terrible. I hate it. I'm just stuck at home playing board games, and after so many board games, you know, there's only so many games of Monopoly you can play until you
Right.
don't want to play anymore.
After so many board games, you get bored.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm messaging my friends. Oh, well,
Hey, what are you doing?
nothing. What are you doing?
Nothing.
Oh, well, that's cool. So this is what I've noticed with, again, mostly in the high school and college level is that high school students will, when they're engaging in a relationship, they're in the flirting stage, they're talking to a couple different people, usually it's on Snapchat, it's wherever it is, and then they engage in the relationship, and once it starts, there's that initial spark, and then they have that emotion and things feel good,
Mm-hmm.
and that feeling is kind of bringing them along, what happens is over time, eventually that feeling kind of starts to fade naturally. That's what it does when you come out of that honeymoon phase. And when it does, they're out. They don't care anymore, you know, and they go to the next person. And again, it's a cycle. They find that initial spark. They get that emotion. It feels good with the new person, and they're going, and then all of a sudden it starts to fade, and they're out. And it's because they're being led by their emotion, and they're just chasing. It's more of a selfish. They may not recognize it, but it is more of a selfish way of doing things. It seems to be it's very dangerous because you have so many problems and pitfalls that you could potentially fall into whenever you're constantly moving from person to person. That you could avoid entirely if you just would recognize that's not the mature way of going through things. And
I think sometimes that cycle, like people end up getting married to someone who maybe that cycle lasted a lot longer, so they thought it was the real one.
Oh yeah.
And so they're like, oh, I'll marry him or I'll marry her.
Oh.
It's lasted longer, but they've been on this euphoric cycle where there's no actual substance. And you end up finding how a relationship will last and what it's really built on, like, for instance, sex and things like that. When you build it on that, well, when that is not as much anymore because it's not so hot and heavy, you know, then you have their raw personality again, and you're like, well, this isn't who I married. It's the same person you married, you just didn't see it correctly.
Yeah. You were just temporarily blinded with this emotional,
the euphoric, oh my gosh, they're perfect. Nobody's perfect.
You can get that euphoria from anyone.
Yeah,
it's going
you get a brand
fade.
new vehicle. You're gonna feel that same way.
Exactly.
Oh, this is so nice. This is new. Look at the seats. But eventually, those seats are gonna have stains.
Yeah,
they're gonna have rips.
And it's your job to maintenance that, which is what we're gonna get to.
Exactly.
Here in a bit.
Come on, we're preaching somebody.
The next major point I wanted to get to is self-value and self-confidence. This one is huge. And I've noticed that a lot of people, young people, most of their problems derive from just a lack of self-acceptance or self-value. They don't really have a good self-identity. And that can somewhat stem from parenting. I feel like parents are like too far left or right that on the spectrum. Like you have parents way over here, and they're like, oh, I'm going to be my kid's friend. We're buddy-buddy.
Yeah.
We're not, I'm not going to be a jerk and tell you what to do.
That
I
was
would
not
never
my
do
parents.
that. Yeah. Or you have the opposite side of the spectrum where parents are like, oh, you know what? You're not doing this. You're not doing that. You can't do this. You can't do that. And it's very, they're right on them. There's no breathing room whatsoever. And when you do that one, it seems like your kid typically will rebel against you.
Yeah.
And so you want to be able to find that happy medium and the balance in the middle where, there are some instances where you're restricting your kid on this or that, but not because you're just restricting them, but because you love them enough to restrict them.
Right.
You love them enough to say, hey, I know this is going to be harmful
And explain to them why.
Exactly. And that's very important. A lot of parents don't do that.
I get because that's what I said, or that's what I say, or it's my house, my rules type.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm guilty of saying that to my kid. Just because he makes me so angry, and I have nothing else to argue except for this is my house.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else to say. It's because I've lost my argument point, and it really was nothing to argue about or get upset about, but I let it get to me.
Yeah.
Because kids sometimes push the right buttons, and they make me freak out.
But I do think that's parenting, partially. The other thing is that whenever you do get that self-identity, if you do have that, it gives you a social filter. It allows you to be in a variety of different environments with different people groups, and you can recognize whenever someone offers you this or that, or whenever you go to do this or that, you can say, okay, well, because of that self-identity, that self-value, you know who you are, you know the value you have, it allows you to have a better head on your shoulders. You can say, okay, well, this is not something I need to engage in, or this is okay, or whatever, and it gives you that social filter, which helps you helps you avoid so many problems.
That's on a relationship level, on friends level. Like if you're unsure of yourself and you don't know, and you just want to feel accepted, you'll end up doing things you normally wouldn't do.
Yeah, that's that peer pressure coming in.
Yeah, and so being confident in yourself will help you stick to what you really want. It'll help you rely on what you really know, and you will not fall for the tricks of, hey, it's cool, man, it's no big deal. Because that's how I got into drugs, is because somebody offered it to me, and I was like, oh, they're doing it. They're fine.
Yeah.
And I wasn't assured in who I was to say no because I didn't need that to be accepted.
It's crazy how that goes. I mean, if you had that initial self-confidence, that self-value, then a lot of times it's not only will it, the thing that's beautiful about it is not only will it allow you to avoid that pitfall, but also people will begin to accept you even if you're not doing the same things a lot of times. Like you can be around a group of guys drinking if they know, well, this is just not what he does, or or whatever. A lot of times that allows that, it kind of removes that awkwardness from the environment. It kind of allows for people to be comfortable because they know, okay, well, yeah, this guy may not be engaging in it, but he's just comfortable in his own skin. It doesn't matter. I think that's another big point of self-identity, both from parenting is a big part of it, and then also just to a certain extent, you're on your own, in life.
Yeah.
So
you have to find your own self-definition. If you don't, you'll be searching in the wrong places.
yeah, it seems to me like sex is so rampant, and way more rampant than what most adults nowadays think it is. And that's because kids are good at hiding it. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
They're very good at hiding it. Most of the time, you're not going to know about it. The reason I think that is because sex has. First off, again, it goes back to parenting. Parenting, they haven't had the talks with their kids. They haven't had any discussion. They're avoiding the discussion because they're nervous or it's awkward or they don't like it. Look, if you don't bring that discussion to your kid, the world is going to bring that discussion to your kid instead. And
It'll find them one way or another.
It's going to find your kid one way or the other. You might as well bring it to them right out of the gate in the open and say, look, this is how it is. People are going to, this is, if I have a daughter one day, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to have those conversations. Like, there's going to be guys who are going to come after you. Okay. It's just going to happen. And you have to have that self-identity, that self-worth to be able to know, I don't have to have this. I don't have to be accepted in some way, and do that in order to be accepted. But,
it needs to be more of an open conversation instead of
Yeah.
a push to the side that we don't want to talk about it because we're not supposed to talk about sex.
yeah, dude, you don't have to be awkward about it. Just be normal. Just be casual. Like, just like it's an important thing. Like, don't avoid it. That's terrible. I would never do that to my kid.
You want your kids to come to you for advice, not wherever else they can find it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a lot of stuff out there that will warp their sense of what sex is really
Yeah,
for.
it twists the truth.
Yeah. And that's the biggest tactic of the devil right there is to get our next generation underneath us to think that the truth is just so close to what actual truth is, but it's a little different. Every year, or every generation, it grows a little more deformed. And before you know it, their truth is not truth at all.
Yeah.
It's a false sense of identity, self-worth, and all these things that people feel like they have to have, or they have to have numbers. I used to hang out with guys in Orlando, and they were talking about their numbers. This kid, he said he started having sex, which may be typical. I waited till I was 21. He was saying his number was like already in the 30s, and he was like 19.
Yeah.
That's a lot. It
That
may
is
not
a
be a
lot.
lot today. I don't know. I'm almost 35, but
To my knowledge, that's
is
quite
that
a
still a
bit.
lot? Okay. And it was just like, man, why is this guy like he was wearing it as a badge of honor that he had a lot of numbers.
Oh, you just struck a chord with me, dude. Okay, don't even. Oh my. Okay, so whenever I don't know why, I don't know if it's the media or if it's just generational. I don't know what it is, but somewhere along the line, young people have got this terrible false idea that the more people you have sex with, the cooler you are or the better you are, and the reality is it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like
it's,
that.
It's chipping away at who you are. Then when you get married, you have nothing to offer.
It's terrible. In my eyes, it's like, okay, well, you've lost character. You've lost potential. You've gone the opposite direction. That doesn't make you cool. It doesn't make you accepted.
Yeah.
Okay? If that accepts you into a social group, that's a social group that doesn't really understand how true popularity and true character works.
It's not one I want to be a part of.
No.
But I think it's like it's like an acceptance thing. Like, oh, I conquered this over here. I conquered that mountain over there. Oh, I conquered, oh, well, I did this and this and this. And it's a form of pride
Yeah.
that will end up
Ugh,
just,
pride.
it'll bite you later so hard. Like, I hate that I slept with anybody else but my wife. But I was one of those guys. I wasn't big on going out and trying to sleep with people, but I fell into that groove of,
that kind of
oh,
wave.
yeah, me too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have that number yet. Like that's and now that looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have just. But that was what everyone else was like. That was their mindset, and so it kind of reformed my self-worth because I let other people influence who I was instead of having that assurance in myself.
Yeah.
That I didn't have to do all that and be a part of that to actually matter somewhere.
I noticed that a lot of people will bring in religion as this, like, the rules are like restricting you and you have no breathing room, you have no freedom. I heard Ravi Zacharias say this one time. He said that when God gives you a rule or something to follow, it's not him restricting you, it's him protecting you. For example, if he tells you to drive on the right side of the road, a lot of people will read that and see that, like, oh, I don't like religion, I don't like this stuff, I don't like these rules and stuff. I'm going to drive on the left side of the road. I want to do what I want. He wasn't telling you that necessarily to restrict you. He was telling you that because he sees the oncoming traffic on the left side
Right.
coming at you, and he wants you to be on the right side to protect you. And so that's how I view abstinence in a lot of ways, is that it's not this stupid religious rule where, oh, it's so lame and nerdy. Like, dude, being lame and nerdy is accepting falsities, okay? Being really popular, truly popular, is accepting the truth. And the truth is, abstinence works. It is good. It is very, very healthy for you if you can get to that point. It's so cool whenever you see that in religion. It's a kind of a new look because so many people.
If you follow the Bible, which is more free? A dog on a leash and a stake in the ground that is protected, or a fenced-in backyard where they can run freely in the parameters given to them. So the Bible is just parameters that keeps us safe, but still lets us freely run around. And we have freedom in Christ. That made a whole lot of sense to me, because you think nobody ever thinks of a big fenced-in backyard as the dog being like in a cage.
Yeah.
You don't think that way. You're like, oh, that dog's having fun out there running around free. But that's the same way we are in Christ. We're given the Word of God as a protection from the outside. It's a freedom. It's not a restriction. Your outlook can seriously give you a different freedom in the same parameters, like the way you perceive things. And like someone can be in a third world country and have poverty all around them, but they see themselves as blessed. And their mindset gives them a peace and a freedom that us over here, we're so restricted by what we need to have next.
Yeah. I think that's so cool with that mindset, that perspective change.
It changes everything. Like when we start to see Christ as a one who came to save us and not constrict us, then it opens up a world of opportunity that never was possible before. And the power and the anointing that we have that is deemed for each individual that believes in Christ is available to every single person that is willing to step into that. The Bible's saying not to have sex and be sleeping around and things like that. It's not another cage to put us in. It's a protection to keep the other things out.
Exactly.
You can't get an STD if you don't sleep around.
Yeah, you can't there's no skeletons in the closet. It's hard to pull them out of it.
There's nothing. I have nothing to be jealous about my wife about. Nothing. She was a virgin now, she sometimes will get upset. And our son lives here, or my son from previous, he lives with us full time. And so she hates, and I hate this, she hates that there is someone else who has to be involved in the decisions of the child that lives in our home. Even though it's not her child, it's her kid,
that
lives here. She's the mom of the house. Once again, something from my past is going to be a part of our lives, whether we like it or not, because I didn't just stick with what I knew.
And I think that's big. That's big too. I think when it comes to sin, I've had a lot of Christians disagree with me on this, but I think that once you're forgiven, yes, you are forgiven, but that doesn't necessarily always mean that the consequences of that sin are going to, just become erased and non-existent anymore.
So I have an analogy that I actually told to my youth not too long ago, and I had up on the screen, I had a picture of a mountain, and close was a big rock, and there was nobody standing on it, but I said, imagine, because I was talking about the echoes of our choices echo throughout the years to come. And I said, imagine if you're standing on this mountain right here, and you yell out something, okay? And all of a sudden you hear it kind of echo back off the mountain, kind of a cool experience if you've ever done it. Someone who is over there that was not a part of your experience over here was affected by that echo. It echoed throughout and touched people and touched rock that you never set foot on. And that's the same with our actions. Like when we first got married, I was fresh out of jail. I had to go to court one more time, and they said the time that I was in jail, it was time served. So I didn't have to go back. And that was one of the big worries because we didn't know what they were going to, because it was a controlled substance charge and it's felony. And so we thought they were going to stick it to me as hard as they could because we didn't know the judge. We didn't know how things were going to work out. It was embarrassing to have my newlywed wife have to go with me to court for something I did that she wasn't even a part of. And then after that, I didn't have an actual license that was
Did that seem weird to you? Was it like out of place or?
Yeah, when I went back and I was sitting in, I think I saw at least 2 people that I was doing drugs with that I would buy from, sell to, whatever.
Yeah.
They had no clue who I was because I didn't look the same. I know who they were.
Yeah.
But they didn't know who I was. And that made me kind of proud too because the change that happened inside was also visible outside. She was having to deal with all that. And then to get my license back, we had to pay a certain amount of money and then go through the whole paperwork process and pay more money. I lost my license when I got arrested in Orlando. And that was 2009, 2010. And that was that long ago, and then when I got married to her, she was having to deal with it then. So that span of years when we got married in 2015, that much time, and she was still paying the price physically and emotionally of me messing up somewhere else. Not even in this area. That was in Florida.
Yeah. And that's that echoes that you were talking about.
Yeah, and it was, and sometimes she still has to deal, not too much anymore because we got most of that hashed out, but now she knows about my past. She knows that I slept with other women. She hates it. And sometimes it makes her angry. She like squeezes my arm. I'm like, baby, I'm with you. I love you. But I mean, I understandably so. I don't have that for her. Like, she was with nobody. I'm her first everything. Even you choosing the right path, you someday may have to deal with someone else's wrong path.
Yeah.
And so just be careful of the path that you walk, because and it may be your kids, because now my son's he's split up between going to his mom's, coming over here. And yes, he has homes that love him, but it sucks.
Yeah, and that's the reality of a fallen world, is that sometimes you don't get to choose. You have other people's consequences that are affecting you, and you just have to work through it and do the best you can with it.
Yeah. So it's definitely just, if you don't want all that baggage, pick carefully.
Yeah. Be picky.
Yeah, be very picky.
Be picky. It is not shallow. It is very beneficial for both you and your future spouse.
But one thing that when her and I got together, when I started living right, I gave my heart back to the Lord. I was like, God, I don't want to be this way anymore. And when I met her and saw her, I was so fresh back to God and so sensitive to the Spirit. I knew when I met her that she was going to be my wife. I've never felt that way about anything, but I knew. I even said it out loud.
Oh, that's cool.
And my pastor's wife next to me, we were up in the sound booth, and I said, I'm going to marry that girl. She was up on stage doing something, and the pastor's wife looked at me and said, what did you say? I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that out. It just came out. But it was in my heart. And like when we first met, I could not remember her name. I used to be a smooth talker, like, what's up, girl? You know, and when she introduced herself, I could not remember what she said. I was so dumbfounded and like smitten immediately.
Yeah.
And she even told me no, but I fasted and prayed. And I said, God, I know what you put in my heart. I'm not going to do anything you don't want me to, but I feel that she's going to be my wife. At this time, she met me at Chili's, and I've been fasting and praying. And she was like, I don't think we need to date. We went on maybe 2 or 3 dates. And I didn't have a full-time job. I didn't have a vehicle.
Yeah.
All the things she didn't want.
Yeah.
And so she's seeing that, you know? And I said, well, has God told you no? She said, no. I said, then why are you acting like he has? And she was like, oh, okay. And so from then on, she was like, let's do this. Okay, fine. So within a year of us, our first date, this month on the 16th is our 5-year anniversary.
Wow. No,
and
that's
so
awesome.
God put that together, but I found her through and got with her through prayer and fasting. And even sometimes if you don't match up the way you think you should, in God's hands, you will always complement each other. She will be the servant. You will yield to her and serve her. I mean, that's what Jesus did when he washed the feet of the disciples. He was the head honcho.
Yeah.
And he knelt down and washed their nasty feet from walking around all the time. And he submitted himself to the people that was supposed to serve him.
I know, and I love that. It's just a great sign of his love. It's a great sign of love right
That's
there.
a good leader, the one that will get down on the ground and serve the others.
Yeah, it really is.
So if you're the man and you're listening to this, learn. If you are married and you're like, man, I don't know what to do, I feel like she's a witch all the time, start serving her, and her attitude will change towards you. If you're wanting her respect, give her something to respect. Ladies, if you're wanting your man to take care of you, give him something to take care of. Doll yourself up. Like, come on, boy, let's go out. Well, you can't go out right now. Let's go get some takeout.
Yeah.
Let's go through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A. God's chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, those are things to think about. You gotta take everything. You got to be a master of everything when you're dating, because you want to find someone who's going to compliment you well. Yeah. And starting in the Word of God and starting in your Bible and fasting and praying is the perfect place to do it. And God has never, ever, ever failed. So if you lean on him and trust in him, you can't fail either.
That's where it is.
Bottom line.
Bottom line right there. And I love how you bring serving into it. I mean, how long can they be mad at you when you're constantly serving, constantly being nice, constantly, I mean, you know, they're bad to you, you're nice to them. I mean, think about that kind of dynamic.
And it'll probably tick them off too. Yeah. At the beginning it will.
Yeah, maybe they're like, oh, this is not genuine. But once they realize it's genuine, it's you know, I've never met anyone who who would continue to be.
Oh, you're serving me again.
Oh, really?
This is terrible.
Yeah. But this is dating habits. It's not just the who. We've talked a lot about the who. And we've touched on this a bit with the servant mentality and other things. But what you do as well, not just who, but what you do once you get into it. And so a lot of people use the garden illustration. I love the garden illustration. I'll bring it up 1,000 times. Let's say if you meet a young woman. Sorry, I'm a man, so I always go from that perspective. But you meet a young woman who,
you said meat.
Meat, yeah.
I thought you said beat.
No.
I was like, whoa.
No.
You beat a young woman. This is just regular everyday life here in 2020.
That's what you got to do.
I'm like, dang, that's pretty intense all of a sudden. Okay. I'm trying to see where this is
going. No. Meat.
Okay,
meat.
Meat. Gotcha.
Okay.
Sorry.
You meet a young woman, and she's perfect. I mean, she's 10 out of 10 look. She's 10 out of 10 personality, which in reality, you're never going to find someone who's perfect like that, man or woman. But this is just for the illustration. Let's say you find a girl. I mean, she's a great girl, perfect girl.
Little dime piece.
And yeah. And so we're going to, let's compare her to, or let's pretend like she's a plot of land. So you got the perfect waterfall. You got the nice fruits and the vegetables. The garden is beautiful. The land is nice and green. It's smooth. Everything's great, just like you want it. But at the end of the day, if you don't maintenance that garden, if you're not taking care of it, because it's not just about when you get there, it's about what you do after you get there. You have got to maintenance. If you don't do that, weeds are going to pop up. It doesn't matter how good that land looks at the beginning. It doesn't matter how perfect you think you are of a match. If you don't maintenance the relationship, if you don't cultivate that relationship, you're going to have problems. You've got to be able to get the weeds out and constantly be striving and changing. And it's a lifestyle. It's a habit. And so once you get into that way of thinking and that method, is going to make things run a lot smoother long term.
And that's what this is all about, is long term.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just out there trying to get some, you're not going for long term. So this podcast is probably not for you.
Yeah.
But these are for people who, like, you may be struggling trying to find someone, or I have a friend, he was done really wrong in a divorce and all this stuff, and he's getting older. I think he might be 40, but he still wants, like, he would love to find someone and have another child. He has one by his first wife, but he would love to have one more, between them, which is like me and her. She gave me a 5-year plan. She said, we're going to be married 5 years, and then after that, maybe I'll give you a kid. So 5 years this month, baby, get on it. And but he wants more kids, but he's getting older, and he's like, he's kind of in this cross point where, like, God, I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Time is a ticking.
Yeah, it's ticking. So he's really struggling with finding not jumping into something that he has prospects. He tried one out. They went on a couple of dates, and he was like, she was a little young.
Yeah.
But it wasn't too young. It wasn't that creepy young, like robbing the cradle type deal. And he was like, no, she's just, I don't know if she was just too immature or what, but she didn't really believe like he does. And so that was a big red flag. But he was looking past it because she was so pretty. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
And he's got another prospect, and he's like, I don't know. I like her family, but she just doesn't check off everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like coming across this thing where he's like, man, the garden's, kind of bare right now. What's good?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, what would you say to somebody that's they're getting up, they're at their midlife point, they want to be married again. Like, what would you say to help them out?
I'm gonna be honest with you. That's out of my range. I don't know. I focus primarily with young people. I don't want to give an answer to say, oh, this is what this guy needs to do, whenever I don't really know the answer.
Right.
So I'm just being genuine with you. I don't know. Seek counsel, seek help, get advice.
I think everything that we're saying would still apply. But to him, it would seem like it's more on a time frame than it would for the younger generation.
Yeah,
you're wasting away, bro. But
just be a little more proactive.
So if you're single, ladies, he's looking for in mid-30s will be perfect. Still wanting children.
Contact us.
FarmersOnly.com. Not a sponsor.
City folks just don't get it. Don't forget that part. It's the best part. Don't forget that.
Oh, man. So dating should lead you into marriage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You've got to be that is the purpose of dating is leading into marriage. If you're not doing that, you're doing it for fun, and it's going to lead you to a lot of problems, unnecessary problems that you could have avoided entirely in the first place. Is that once you do find the right person, you finally do get into a situation where you're going to get married. You enter that marriage.
So let me pause you. So what would you say to the people who would argue that you just said dating is supposed to lead to marriage? Like that is the whole process, the reason. What would you say to somebody who's just young, like, oh, I'm just having fun and trying to go out and have fun? What would you say to that?
Well, the first thing you have to understand is that if you're just having fun, that typically means it's self-hurting. You're hurting yourself more than anyone and the people you're around having fun with.
Comes back to selfishness.
If you are just having fun, yeah, it does. If you are just having fun, look, there's nothing wrong with having fun, but there is something wrong with having that kind of fun that people mean by that. You know, engaging in sex when you shouldn't be.
Because that's a lot of people's. I'm just having fun. You know, I'm not really looking for anything serious.
Yeah, and dude, come on, most
but
people.
But you're doing serious damage.
Exactly.
Not looking for something serious, but you're doing serious damage to who you are, your self-confidence, because listen, every marriage is hot and heavy in the beginning, and then after a while, it's like you get so busy with life, you almost have to schedule in sex.
Yeah.
I mean, you really do almost. And you're like, when are we going to have time? Well, this Tuesday, I think I have at 6 p.m. Okay, well, where's the son? Okay, well, he's going to be he's going to be at the friends. Okay, yeah, we could do it then. And it's like, it becomes a part of the schedule instead of a spontaneous
instead
combustion.
Of that flare. Yeah.
And so it's very easy to think of all those things and you just want to have fun. When really, if you work at it in marriage, you're like, the way I see my spouse is my best friend. What more fun is that, to spend my life with my best friend?
It's awesome.
Like, she gets my humor. She doesn't find The Office that funny. I think it's hilarious, even though she laughs. She laughs. And I'm like, girl, you say it's not funny, but she'll be stopping in the kitchen and she'll be going.
Yeah. You see that smile creep up.
Okay, yeah. You think it's funny. Just a minute. Marriage is the end game. It should be. And you don't have to sleep with someone to find your self-worth. Like, I've seen so many girls that would let someone in and take their virginity or just sleep with whoever just because they didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Or they didn't want to be by themselves.
They wanted that respect. They wanted to feel accepted. But look, that's not going to give you that fulfillment long term. It's not going to give it to you.
It's
not
all
only
short.
that,
yeah.
but most guys, whenever you give them, like, that's a telltale sign. If you're engaging with a guy, you're flirting, and then you begin dating, and you deny sex to him, and he leaves, that's a great thing for you, because that means he was not after you for you, he was after you for the sex. But if you deny sex to him and he stays with you, now you've got something else going on here. Now it's like, oh, well, maybe it's not just the sex, he actually does like me for me. That's something you can use to kind of filter through the bad apples. So that's another thing you got to think about when it comes to sex. So, and I've interviewed a lot of people.
My wife and I just talked about this, and she was like, I don't understand. How can you be tethered to one person and then share yourself with others? She's like, I would kill you.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the open marriage thing?
The open marriage.
Yeah, okay. Well, see, this is what I've noticed is that I've interviewed quite a few young people on campus, and a lot of, I don't know why, but the theme seems to be that people are thinking, well, marriage is this cage. It's this boring thing where you're stuck, and it's just terrible. And it's like, that's not at all what marriage is, and if it's running healthy, I don't know what kind of marriage you've seen, but that's not the way it should be. It's not a cage. It's an opportunity to spend the rest of your life with your best friend. It's comfortability. It's stability. It's it provides those things for you that. It
makes me think that maybe they're getting that signal from someone who's in their home.
Yeah, most likely. I think that the media influences, but that usually it's someone who's a close relative or something like that.
And also, too, dating, being in a committed relationship, being married, the biggest trip-ups, especially on social media, is seeing somebody with like a 10 body, posting cleavage, booty hanging out, whatever. They'll do the whole backwards picture in the mirror thing with their leg day. You're not trying to show your legs, okay?
Yeah.
That's not your legs. That's your butt hump. It's hard as a married man to filter out all that crap when it's everywhere.
Yeah, and you have to know that a lot of that's just fake. It's not real.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff, I mean, you could, Instagram, there's filtering, there's all kinds of different things you can do. And when you get in person, and the makeup comes off, it's like, okay, now this is real.
Yeah, now this is like, oh, crap. Yeah, like right now, people can't get their hair did. They can't go out and get the manis and petties and go buy their makeup. It's about to get real ugly out there.
You thought Walmart was bad before.
Oh, it's coming out now. So prepare yourself for that, because it's always the grass is always greener type scenario.
Yeah,
but you still have to mow the grass if you live over there too.
Yeah,
you do. Like there's no way around it. Like it looks better, but it's not, because most likely they're really high maintenance. They got a lot of issues. And this is my thing. Like, my wife is conservative in the way she dresses. She still wears skinny jeans, but like things that girls wear that are so revealing, where you can see the little hoo-hoo, like the little leggings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My wife will not wear it unless she has like a long shirt or some kind of dress type thing. And that makes me so happy and proud, because she's reserving for what she has for her husband.
Yeah.
And she's not advertising it to anybody else.
Exactly.
And that to me is a big turnoff, even though visually as men, we see something and we're like, oh my God. Like, this is how amazing my wife is. I'm going to throw this out there. This is free. So we were at a mall, and I didn't even see it. But I am very open with my wife about, like, women with big butts. She knows I like big butts.
Yeah.
Okay? I cannot lie.
I knew it was coming.
And so she went like this. She was sitting in the passenger seat. She touched my shoulder, and she was like, I'm sorry, baby. Like, what are you talking about? And she was like, that girl over there. I didn't even see it. And I look, and this girl, this big butt, had her cheeks like hanging out of the bottom of her shorts. She was apologizing that I had to sit there and suffer when it was around. That's how amazing she is. She was sorry because she knows I struggle with it.
Yeah.
And she was
And the
sorry.
self-awareness in that situation.
Like, that's what we need to help each other to not lust after someone else. We need that accountability and that shoulder. And
not only when you're talking about that, your wife wearing the longer things to cover the leggings, if she does wear leggings, that's not only, it's a two birds in one stone. Not only is it respect to you, but it's simultaneously, it prevents that opportunity for other men to be, looking and gazing and falling into temptation in their own lives. And so it's two birds in one stone in that way.
I've heard, and this is on a Twitter thing. It was a feed, and someone's like, "It's not my fault that you're looking." It absolutely is.
Yeah,
I understand
when you're wearing nothing. Okay.
Yeah, guys are visual people. Like, women are more of the personality. Like, they want to get to know you and all that crap. And but the guys are like, when you see it, it can turn you on without you even meaning to.
Yeah, men are very visual.
Yeah, and I believe that's why in Garden of Eden they were naked.
Yeah.
And probably Adam's doing. No, let's not put anything on.
Whoa.
It's fine. It's fine. We don't have to put anything on. And on the thread, it was like it's not. But actually, in the Bible, it says if you cause your brother to stumble, you yourself are guilty of the sin.
Yeah.
And so keep that in mind, ladies. Just because it's hard out here for a pimp. I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, like, try to be more modest. Don't have your boobs hanging out. Like, I'm just very blunt. Sorry, but like, if you can see your cleavage, wear an undershirt.
Yeah.
If you can see your woohoo, wear a longer shirt.
Yeah, and look, if you're doing that, you're probably, you're going to attract a lot of guys who you probably don't want to attract in the first place.
Yes, if you're trying to date, you're going to end up finding somebody who's just wanting you for your body because you're flaunting it out there like you're going fishing.
And if you keep it reserved, then that's whenever you're more likely to find the guy who is not just after you for solely your body, but also for your personality, for who you actually are as a person.
And it brings a new level of appreciation too. Once you are married, you know that she's not going to do that, flaunting it in front of other people, and you have nothing to get jealous about because she's being reserved. A beautiful woman is a beautiful woman. Curvy is curvy. Okay, you can't hide everything, but do what you can.
Yeah,
help a brother out.
Yeah, don't a little bit. Come on.
Yeah, just a little bit. So once again, thank you, Caleb, for coming on today.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
If you have any questions, and this is a way to interact with the podcast, #Faith and Failures. If you have any questions or any comments on today's episode. And also coming soon next month, there will be a faithandfailures.com, so you can check out weekly blogs and new episodes that we put out every week. You can find us on any major listening platform, Apple, Spotify, Google, and we appreciate the downloads, the rates, the shares, and also if you want to donate, hit that button. Thank y'all, and we'll see you next time.